Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be working on this drag bike. This is a part we painted. We shot the red, which was a tri-coat. Then we shot silver, which didn't match right. Then we shot silver again, got it to match right. Then we're going to mask off some stuff and do some fun little airbrushing stuff. We have to do the Hayabusa lettering on it. And this is going to look like the stock pad that's on the actual back seat part. And we want to make it look like it's stock. It's extended, it's made out of fiberglass or carbon fiber. So it's a pretty cool part, but we just want it to look kind of factory. So kind of in the race bike world, the more factory it looks, you psych out. I'm an airbrusher. I'm going to spray this black first. We're going to shoot some stuff and then we're going to do some cool stuff on it. So stick around and find out what we're going to do. Okay, where'd I put my airbrushes? First off, we sanded this. This is clear coated. We sanded it with 600 grit. And I'm going to shoot some adhesion promoter because I believe in that stuff. The stuff is like cheap insurance as far as I'm concerned. We're going to be masking on top of what we're shooting now, so I want to make sure that that adhesion is really good. We have the physical adhesion with the sanded surface, but now we're going to shoot a chemical adhesion on it. I'm going to go ahead and put some in my airbrush. We got to turn on the air on. It's going to be wet. Got the air on. And there's something I wanted to do. Check something. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put that one. Take these two together. Now I'm using this as a measuring stick. So now I can take this over to here. Line that up to there. And something's way off. That lines up there, that lines up. Yeah, that makes a difference. There, there. Let's go ahead and get a marking utensil. Found one we can stop looking. Alright, let's just draw that line. Should be able to come over to this side. Now with that line, we should be rear course. Okay, a lot closer. Alright, it does look off, so I'm going to make sure that we're not off. Now I went off of the body line, and evidently the body line is not correct. So I want to make sure, because you're not really going to see the body line. You're going to see the black square line. Hard to see. And over here. All right. No. There we go. From that line to that line to that line to that line. Okay, come up. That much. Okay. And flip this over. Check that again. Okay. Sometimes it's better to use tape or some type of marking on something so you're not remembering a number or guessing on a tape measure. A lot of tape measures, it's real hard to do this. There's a couple of companies that make measuring devices for airbrushing and artwork and stuff like that. They're pretty cool. They're out there. We're not sponsored by them, so just go online and check them out. And I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. So, but those can make, if you're doing like a graphic panel and doing all the different lines on vehicles or something like that, it would help. This, you know, just a piece of tape, a couple marks, you're done. Just wanted to show you guys that idea. Now, we got this mask. We're good here. Now we got to put some, this is what I use. I love it. Like it much better than all the others. This is a adhesion promoter. Now this is super hard to pour into a little tiny airbrush, but let's go for it. Okay. People always ask me what airbrush pressure I'm spraying at. I have no idea. I go off of the sound of it. Right now it sounds a little too low. We'll see how it sprays. Yeah, it's pretty good. So this, we want to do a couple coats of it. That's one coat. We put it on a little wet, not too wet, but a little wet. We let it flash, and then we do another coat, and then we're ready to shoot our base. You have to kind of be ready for shoot the base because you have to shoot it on pretty quick, one after another. You want this to still kind of be edgy, wet, you know, sticky. So when we shoot on the base coat, those two chemicals will actually melt into each other and you'll get a real good bond. This is kind of like shooting, back in the 80s, we used to take clear, mix a little tiny bit of it up, whatever the clear mixture was, and it still works now, but this is just more convenient. But you can mix up your clear, 4-to-1, 2-to-1, whatever the type of clear it is, then reduce it about 300 to 400%. So it's basically reducer with a little bit of clear in it. You spray that on, and then that is like an adhesion promoter. You can wait about 15-20 minutes for it to kick, and then spray your base coat on top of it. Base coat can sit open for, I want to say, 12 hours. Maybe I've gone as far as 72, which I know you're not supposed to, but it has a longer open window time than the adhesion promoter is. So the idea is to shoot your adhesion promoter, shoot your first base, and then you can actually relax a little bit, have a little bit of time as you shoot your next layers of base on it. So I'm watching it, it's starting to flash off. As soon as that flash is completely, we'll shoot the black. Now I have the black that I just added a little more reducer in, shaking that up. This is a very good company that we've dealt with in the past. There's a new company out that I'd love to try their airbrush colors, but we're just waiting on those. And that's about it. Shoot another layer. And that's good to go. So now we clean out the airbrush. We don't clean it out, we just add to it. We can leave that in there. Now reducer, I buy it in a gallon can, so it's kind of hard to work with. So what I like doing is putting it in a spray gun and then just using the spray gun to spray it out. No air hooked up to it, just let it drip. Now an easy way to mix up your paint colors in your airbrush, put your fingers over where the needle is and just pull back slightly, real slow. Otherwise, you'll have it all over the ceiling. So you want to do that, and it just kind of bubbles up. It back feeds into the cup. With that done, I think I'm going to turn up my airbrusher a little bit, because the airbrush is really low. I must have been doing some detailed work. That's better. Like I said, I go off of sound. My gauge is so old that it is completely covered over with overspray. Now, base coat, you just want to put on kind of dry. You don't really want to get it real wet. If you get it real wet, then your adhesion is really lacking for some reason. I don't know how it works, especially with water-based colors. If you're working with water-based colors, these are all chemical. If you're shooting with water-based colors, you need to shoot them dry. At least that's what I remember. I haven't shot water-based in a long time because I had so many issues with it. I'm just used to chemical. I've been dealing with it for 35 years, so maybe even longer, right? So this is how I do it. You want it to flash off, so we're going to set the airbrush down. And walk away from it. Otherwise, you sit there and you rush. And I just want to do it. I just want to get it done. No. Let it sit. Let it dry. Let it do its thing. I'm also shooting with super slow reducer. So the reducer is allowing the paint to hit wet, not be dry and flaky, so you don't get a real dry edge. As you can tell, this is staying wet for a certain amount of time. And that's kind of what we want. We want it to flash off in 10 to 15 minutes, not right away. So I'm gonna go do something. Maybe get the stencil ready. We're gonna do some stenciling on this. As you can see, it's completely flashed off. Looks kind of flat, like it's flat. Black. We'll shoot another coat. Now we don't need to put this on too heavy. We just want to hide the red. It's good to go. That's done. Now we got to let this dry for about an hour. I like letting base coat get good and dry. Manufacturers say you can work on it within a half hour, but let it dry. Give it its time. So in the meantime, I'm going to work on the stencil that we're going to lay down. The idea is to make this Hayabusa emblem that's on the factory part. It's pressed into the plastic, so it's recessed. We're gonna attempt to make this look recessed. Doesn't have to look 100% recessed, but you know the idea. So it's black on black. It's just black recessed. So after this sets up, I'm going to put mask on there, the outside of it. Then put a mask on the inside of it, and then spray basically white and black to give it a look of reflective light. So we're going to do that. Clean out the airbrush first. Hold on. Maybe I'll get another airbrush. 2 airbrushes, 2 colors. That works. Okay. I'm going to do that. Yes, I've been at it for a minute. I decided to go ahead and do the lettering while I waited for that to dry. We had to figure out about center of the the bevel here, trying to make it look like the stock piece. That this doesn't really mimic the stock piece too well. So we stretched the lettering on the computer. This is a vinyl cutout. It's made out of paint mask, so it's a low tack vinyl. So we stretched it out. We realized that the Gen 3 is a different lettering than the Gen 2s and Gen 1s on the Hayabusa. We corrected that, stretched it out, and we got it laid down where we think it needs to go. It's pretty much all eyeball. I did lay a line down the top so we can measure off of. We did that. I measured from this to there, both sides. Optically, it looks correct. Measured wise, it's really close. The side to side profile on this part doesn't match 100%, which it's an aftermarket part. It's not computer science, so it's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and stick this down. I already got the other side all stuck down. Then we're going to have to put tape around it. This just goes black. It's pretty straightforward. And the way that I like getting this straight is by putting a center bar on here, and then I can tilt it left, right, forward, back, and kind of correct it the best I can while I'm working on it. So I have it, now I have it laid down where it needs to be. I got to do something like this because I have to pull off that bottom tape in order to line it all up. So I'm going to go ahead and put this tape here. The part's real hard to work with because it moves so much. I don't have a decent way to latch it down. I have holes, but there's no way to put a bolt in there. So now all that measurement that I've done, we gotta make this into like a hinge so we don't lose that measurement. So now that's down. That looks good. That looks good. So now I can pull this up, pull this off, and lay this back down. Now the part is slightly curved, so it wants to fight me on laying down flat, which is a common problem. Gotta make sure we're not too far under here. Okay, we have that down. Now I'm going to pull this up, pull up the paint mask. Now my transfer paper is also really low tack. You want everything about this job to be low tack. You don't need anything sticking real well. Okay. And I'm going to lay that down. And I press down in the center and then I work it up next to the lettering. And if we get wrinkles in it, I don't want it near the lettering. But the rest of it can go ahead and wrinkle. Okay, now I'm going to pull up this side. This can come off now because we have it pretty much laid down. We need to make sure don't lose anything, pull it up to where that releases. Now I got this tape over here that I could line up to. And that helps it lay down. Starting to get a wrinkle in it, so we gotta watch that. Okay, that laid down nice. And then I'm gonna push real close to the lettering and then down. Sometimes you have to cut little lines in here so this can actually move and be where it needs to be. But I think we did okay on this one. Okay, now we'll fill this up. And I pull it directly over itself so that way it doesn't try to lift up on the edges. Now visually I stand back, I look at it. Now since they're going different directions, it's kind of hard to make sure that they're exactly the same because you can't measure an A from here and an A from here. It's an H on this side and an A on that side. So even if you do get it lined up perfect, you still can't really tell, which is kind of an advantage, but at the same time, it makes it more difficult and a little more frustrating when you're working with it. This way, you really can't see them both at the same time. When you look at it, this side looks lower than this side, but it is because you're looking at the H. You know, it's one of those hard ones. Okay, every once in a while, it seems like I have to check my camera. So I just recorded this whole big thing of how to lay this all down. I do have a second camera, but there's not going to be any audio. There's nothing to... The one camera, my main camera, shut off, and that's my microphone camera. So I am going to go over it on when I do the Hayabusa logo on there, how we did this. But basically, I talked about putting a tape line down, lined it up, got both sides equal, and then I was able to lay down the masking and put it down. Put a piece of tape down the center to make sure that we lined it up and we're able to move it left and right, up and down and all that. So then I laid it down, peeled off the transfer paper and tape, and done. So it's very frustrating when the camera shuts off for no reason. I don't know why it does that. So for the rest of this video, you're probably going to see me checking the camera a lot. It's really hard to work on this part because there's no way to mount it. So you barely push on the part and it wants to angle down and almost fall off. For the most part, it's not a big deal because I can use one hand. But for other parts, it is. This tape has been a nightmare, and I don't know why. It's always better to overmask than undermask. Cleanup is not fun. Okay, we have it all masked off. Just check and make sure. It looks like it might. I think I was. That piece of tape is almost covering some of the H. When I made the paint mask, I didn't allow that much room on either side of the lettering, which I should have done. But I think we're looking good. I'll make sure I'm not covering the A. Okay. Just like before, we're going to shoot adhesion promoter on it, and then we'll shoot the black. I'm going to go ahead and hit this. And then come over and hit this side. Okay, I'm going to switch that out to the black. Now I'm shooting this on top of clear base coat. Basically a base coat binder. We don't want to spray the base coat too wet, especially on paint mask, because it can move. The chemicals can make it act weird sometimes. So I'd rather do a little bit on that side, a little bit on this side, kind of work my way around the part. All right, that's 100% covered. That's 100% covered. Now that dries. So while that's drying, I can unmask it all, and I'm going to leave the paint mask on, but I can unmask all the other paper and get ready to start working on that front piece, where we're going to show you guys, hopefully this time, how to lay down paint mask. So I'm going to go ahead and unmask it, and then we'll get you over there. This is what we got to do. We have an outside piece, and Now we have an inside piece. What I'd like to do is lay down the outside piece first. Then I could spray a light gray in it. I mean, a dark gray in it. And then I could put this on top of and then shoot black and white around it. That way it'd give it that recessed look. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. Now when I cut these out, I always make sure I have plenty of them, so I cut out multiple, just in case I have to move something or something doesn't look right. Now what we have to copy is that up there. This is our piece. Now this has a recessed piece in it. I don't know if you can see recessed pieces. Oh. So I want to make sure that we get the angle right. And once the angle's right, then we can work on positioning side to side. That looks pretty decent. This is a completely different shape, so I can't use any of those measurements. But I can use some measurements. I can at least measure side to side and see how close we are. So we're basically 5 to center, 2.5. So it looks like we're pretty decent. It's very, very, very hard to tell. This is going to be a hard one. So 1 inch is the center of the logo, which makes sense because I made it 2 inches wide. So you kind of measure 1 inch across there, and then that should be at about 2.5 inches. A little bit over to that side. Looks pretty decent. It's like I said, there's not much to go on. I do want this to be kind of, from the look of it, up and down. Now, because of the shape of this logo, there is no true left and right. Let's see. I want to tilt it a little more that way. I think that's about as best as we're going to get it. Okay, I had the boss come in. She looked at it also. It's always good to have a couple of eyes on it, because you might not be wearing your shoes straight, or you might have 2 socks on or something like that. An extra set of eyes just helps. Makes it that much safer. So I'm going to stick this on, and then I'm going to shoot a color on it. You can see how low tack the transfer paper is. And that's what you want when you're working on base coat. You want real low tack. You're not spraying anything real heavy. You're not worried too much about that. What you do want to make sure is that you're not messing anything up. Now this tape is really low tack, but sometimes it feels like it has a little more bite. So what I like doing is putting the tape on my shirt so it peels off some of the lint that's on the shirt. And what that'll do is that'll make it to where it doesn't stick real harsh. Make sure we're all masked off around it. Basically what I'm trying to do is just barely offset this color. I'm going to go back to the other airbrush that I have set up. Put some more Mustang in it. This airbrush is not spraying right. We're going to have to do a rebuild on this one. Okay. Set that aside. Pick up our gray. This might be a little too light for what I want, so I'm going to just barely fog it on. Okay, that's good. That's how light I want it. I mean, just barely there. The reason why is because we want a little bit of a contrast in between this and that. This and that. So that way when I do the shadow, you'll actually be able to see a little bit of that shadow line. What we can do is just a little bit of kind of like a streak in between it. Kind of like the light's reflecting off of it. And we'll go with that. Now this has to dry for a good 30 minutes. Well, maybe I'll wait a little longer. So I could put masking on top of this, of what I just sprayed. Even though I didn't spray that much, I still don't want to shoot too much on it. We'll leave it all masked off because the new one is going to go inside that and lay down. So that way we have something to line it up to. Meanwhile, I'm going to clean out the airbrush. While we're waiting for that to dry, we might as well go ahead and pull this off. So I like this tool I have no idea where I got it from, but it's kind of like a mechanical pencil in shape, but has a little sharp metal point on the end. We want to go real slow. Kind of very slowly kind of work it off. One thing hard about this lettering is there's so many back points that it tries to work its way both directions. I got a little bit of paint coming over, out, under something. I think it's just what was on the paint mask. So we'll work that off. Now what I do is I get that in the light, and then I can see the edge, and then I can pull it off. Okay, so now we have a little bit of edge to clean up to do. So I'll just go in there and take this tool and just kind of clean up the edge. If I have to, I'll mask it off with fine line and clean it up. I think that's what we're going to have to do. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mask this off in a little bit. Right now the airbrush is cleaned out, so I'm going to, when I do the black on this part, I'll mask this off and then I'll show you guys touching up lettering. And what we'll do is we'll just put a piece of fine line down here, fine line across the little paper, and just kind of lightly hit that edge, and that'll clean it up. All the rest looks pretty decent. Anything else that we need to touch up, we'll go in there and we'll do it. All right, back to waiting for that to dry. This is not going to be easy. This is just a tiny bit different than that. So we just have a little bit of area that we could shoot the black and white to make that look stepped down. Now, one way that I found to do that is by putting a piece of parchment paper. Let's tape this down. And this makes it to where we can see through. And we can put this down without the backing. So the backing makes it to where you can't see through it. I wish they made a clear backing one. If they made one with clear backing, it would be so much easier. Okay, so we have that. Now, how did I do this before? Okay, that's what we need to do. Let's not lose that. This has to be like that, so we could see just a little bit. Now this is getting serious, so I'm going to put on glasses, put on a light, grab my stuff, get in here. So now I can see, I can line it up. I mean, we're talking 1/16 of an inch or less. that looks pretty good. Nope. Nope, nope. Alright, I think that's gonna have to work. It's not perfect, but we're just going for a little effect. Okay, then we can pull this off. And then lay this down. Something's not right here. What is not right? Oh my goodness. All right. Okay, so what we have a little problem with, we're going to need this. Pull the upper layer of that off. Look what I missed. That little guy right there. Okay. Now the other thing I want to do, very carefully lift this up. And I'm going to shift this over. And because it's vinyl, it will stretch. Okay, that's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. Okay, so I got to shoot a little bit of that gray in there. Cleaned out my airbrush. All right, I just want a little bit of gray in there. So our part shows a little bit of highlight on this edge and shadowing on the upper edge. So I'm going to go ahead and put the white in first. I mean, I could probably use gray, but let's see how minor we can airbrush this. All right. Okay, so all the bottom edges. Okay, so on this one it's all the top edges because that's reversed. Okay, that's done. Let's not get rid of that yet. We have to try to put this guy back in. On top of that little gray that we just shot. All right. now let's go ahead. Just going to do a little freehand mask. Okay. Now we're going to clean this out. We want to go black for the shadow part. Now this is why I wanted to shoot a little bit of that gray in there, so the black had something to kind of bounce off of. Put a little black in the airbrush. Now this airbrush is not really a detail airbrush, but we should be able to get enough detail off of this. We just got to barely pull back on the trigger. All right, let's get in here. I don't know if you guys can see any of this. Okay, I'm going to put this right across there, just so that way we can keep that white edge. Put this up here. With the airbrush, the closer you get, the more detail you can get out of it. So right now, I'm really close. Okay. So I'm just going around hitting all the top edges of everything. So what I'm doing is on the corners, I'm just putting like a 45-degree line on it. That way it kind of makes it look like it goes in. Now this is, like I said, this is so small that it really doesn't really matter. But I like doing it anyways. Okay, all those edges are done, all those top edges are done. Well, let's see what that looks like. Now, once we pull this off, no going back. But it kind of is what it is, unless we sand it off and redo it. So is there anything we want to look at? Let's stare at it for a little bit. All right, let's undo it. Let's pull out the center section first. Now let's pull out the center section. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, the white might be a little too strong. I think I want to knock that down just a hair, which we could do. We could go that way. We can't go the other way. So I had black in the airbrush last. I got to put a little more in. I'm going to make it really weak. You can see just barely pulling back, it gets that spider effect. Well, there's an area that needs a little touch up here. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now I'm just going to lightly fog this over. Just kind of knock it down a little bit. I think that's good. I like it. I like it a lot. And that's how you do recessed lettering. Now I'm going to unmask it, and then we're basically ready for clear. I got to do a little touch up I'm going to bring you guys over on. Have you guys watch that. And once that's done, then we're good to go. We're golden. Let's unmask this. Well, that's scary. Now, if you do all your prep right, unmasking should be fun. But if you're like me and you've had so many issues with different paint companies and stuff like that, there's always a little bit of fear in unmasking. When we used to do our live shows, this was everybody's favorite time, was unmasking. And I was always scared that it was going to peel off or something was going to have an issue. All right, we're looking good. Time for touch-up. Okay, so we have a couple of areas in here that need a little attention to detail. So what I'll do is I'll bring the tape in here. Just kind of mask that. We have to make sure that we block certain areas. Now I'll take the airbrush and just make sure my cap's on, because that's important. Where's my glasses? That might make things a little bit easier close up. Okay, with the glasses installed, we'll just come in here and just kind of like we did that little line up there, put that on. And that's how you clean up the edges. It's really just a matter of going around and looking for bad edges. Sometimes it takes multiple pieces of tape to get the right line. All right, that's looking good. I'm happy with that. That's pretty much how easy it is to do touch-up. You just got to go around, look for areas that you don't like the look of it. You want to clean an edge up, just go in there and mask it off. If this was taller lettering, I would say fine line. You could go in with fine line, but this lettering is pretty small, so we're just going to go in and fix it the best we can. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's our touch-up.
Well, that's it. It was that easy. Okay. I didn't record a lot of this spraying, masking, and the bigger type painting stuff, but I do have other videos on that. So if you guys want to watch some of those, go check out those videos. This is the part we're supposed to mimic. We weren't supposed to make it exact because the shape is totally different. But this is the factory part. This is the aftermarket part. So what we did was painted it to resemble this, and this just is a cap that went onto the factory part that had the rear fender also. So we're kind of two pieces in one. I don't have the other piece, I just have this. This is what we had to match the colors off of, plus it gave us the idea of the symbol here recessed in. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please watch some of our other videos, like and subscribe, do all that stuff. And check out some more videos. I'll do some photographs of this once we're done. Maybe I'll do a little video clip of it once we get it all clear coated. So that's it.